Once upon a time in the vast grasslands of Central Asia, there lived a young boy named Bumin. He was born into a nomadic Turkic tribe called Ashina that once had roamed the endless steppes, and he learned to ride a horse and wield a bow from a very young age. Bumin was always fascinated by the legends and stories of his ancestors, who had once ruled over vast empires and commanded armies of thousands of warriors. But at the time of Bumin, the Ashina had been reduced to a rather small tribe of former warriors, resting in and around the Altai Mountains. Their chieftain was Tuwu, Bumin's father. Under his rule, the Ashina did not manage to break away from the rule of the mighty Rouran Khagan. During Bumin's childhood, Anagui had ended the Rouran civil war and ascended to the throne. He was to rule with an iron fist. The Ashina were not exempt from punishment by their overlord. As Bumin grew older, he became more and more convinced that his family needed to break free, and that he himself was destined to accomplish this goal. He had a fierce spirit and a sharp mind, and he spent many long hours studying the tactics and strategies of the great conquerors of the past. Names like Attila and Tomris are on the list of men and women Bumin admired. Yet, he was a different kind of warrior. He dreamed of uniting all the tribes of the steppes into a single powerful empire that would rival even the mighty Chinese empires. Not only would he free his own clan from bondage, but also end the subjugation of all Turks that lived in the area. For that, he would need to overthrow Anagui. Shortly before his 18th birthday, Bumin had a vision. In his dream, he saw a great eagle soaring over the steppes, and he heard a voice calling out to him, saying, "Bumin, son of Tuwu, great-great-grandson of Ashina, you are destined for success. Focus your energy, concentrate, stay vigilant, and you will create the greatest empire the world has ever seen." Bumin woke up with his heart pounding with excitement. He knew that he had been chosen by the spirits of his ancestors to fulfill this great destiny. A few days later, Tuwu died. With his father's soul flying away towards the sky, Bumin was in mourning, and yet he did not waste any time. The young Turk now became new chieftain of the Ashina, and with his new political powers, he gathered his closest friends and allies. Together they set out to unite the tribes of the steppes under his banner. At first, many of the other Turkic tribes, like those of the Uyghurs and Kyrgyz, were skeptical of Bumin's claims. They saw him as just another ambitious chieftain trying to grab power for himself. But Bumin was clever and charismatic, and he knew how to win people over. He made alliances with other tribes by marrying into their families, and he offered protection and support to those who pledged allegiance to him. Out of these marriages came out the three sons of Bumin: Kara, Mukhan, and Taspar. Meanwhile, his younger brother Istemi was supportive all the way. Slowly but surely, Bumin's power grew. He defeated rival chieftains in battle and expanded his territory. He established a capital at Otukun, where he built a great palace and surrounded himself with the finest warriors and advisors in the land. But Bumin's true test came when the Rouran Empire sent an army to crush the upstart Tiela Federation. Anagui was hell-bent on ending these Turks' revolt and quell any other rebellion on the steppe. Bumin rallied his troops and led them into battle against the Tiel. He came to Anagui's aid. With an army of 20,000 Ashina Turks and other allied troops, he crushed the 50,000-men strong Tiel army. Bumin made himself new chieftain of the Tiel, thus bringing in more than 250,000 Turkic men and women under his banner. But instead of subjugating them like Anagui would have done, Bumin offered the Tiel tribes positions within his new state, granted that they helped him out against the Rouran. The Tiel, of course, agreed. Yet, Bumin did not attack directly. To the contrary, he requested from the Khagan the hand of his daughter as a gift for protecting the Rouran rule from the Tiel. Obviously, Bumin was playing a political game. Instead of granting Bumin new privileges for ending the Tiela revolt, or even giving him one of his Rouran daughters, Anagui made fun of the Turk. He sent an emissary to Bumin's court and called him a blacksmith slave. Bumin had the emissary killed and immediately cut all relations with the Rouran. Now, he had a legit reason to break away from the Rouran. He was not being respected. He and his Ashina tribes were not being treated the way they should. Just before attacking, Bumin went to the territory of the Chinese Western Wei Empire. A decade ago, he had tried looting this frontier region. His attack was thwarted. As he returned, he was greeted by Yuan Tai, the Chancellor and Chief of Staff of the Chinese. Tai had gotten wind of the situation. At the same time, his empire was still at odds with the Rouran. Thus, he made Boomin an offer, a marriage to seal an alliance between Ashina and Wei. Boomin could not refuse this offer, and together with Princess Changal of the Wei, he returned to his headquarters. With the Chinese at his side and the Turkic tribes behind his back, Boomin finally attacked Anagui. The battle was long and brutal, but Boomin's tactics and bravery turned the tide. In the end, the Turkic army emerged victorious, and the Rouran were forced to retreat. Anagui wasn't killed. He killed himself, out of utter humiliation, out of fear, perhaps, of what Boomin and his warriors would do to the Khagan. For Boomin, it did not matter, because with this victory, Boomin became the undisputed Khagan. As he overthrew the Rouran dynasty, he established a dynasty of his own and founded the Turk Empire. Shortly thereafter, Boomin died. But his sons Kara, Mukan, and Taspar, as well as Istemi, ruled wisely and justly, and his empire grew in power and influence. They sent emissaries to distant lands, forging alliances and trading relationships with the Byzantine Empire, Persia, and even the distant Arab Caliphate. Boomin's legacy lived on long after his death. The Gok-Turk Empire continued to thrive and expand for centuries, leaving a lasting impact on the history of Central Asia and the world at large. When 700 years later, a certain Temujin proclaimed himself as Genghis Khan, ruler of the ocean and the universe, he did so by starting his world conquest journey in Otukun, the same sacred place that the Gok Turks had ruled from. In a certain sense, the Mongols of Genghis Khan continued the legacy of the Gok Turks. That is why, even today, Boomin's name is remembered as one of the greatest conquerors and statesmen in the history of the steppes.